So I'm going to start off this video with a spoiler warning. I'm definitely going to be going over the events of Infinity War, so if you have not seen that film yet, I would recommend not watching this unless you, of course, don't care about spoilers. The next thing that I'm going to advise you is that this is going to be largely a prediction video. So if predictions are something that will affect your enjoyment of the next film, then I would also advise against watching this. There are two ways that predictions could affect the viewing of the next film. Either I can guess things right, and you'd kind of count those as quote-unquote spoilers, or I could guess things wrong and build up these expectations or this hype, and then you might enjoy what they provide less, kind of like a Last Jedi kind of effect. And I want to avoid that. So I'm going to start by prefacing this video with those two kind of warnings. So let's just jump into what's going on. So if you have seen Infinity War, then you know that, of course, a lot of the characters disappear at the end and even die throughout. You've got Gamora and Loki, which are two big names that die throughout the film, and not the big ending way. If we're going to address this, we're obviously going to have to say that these characters are going to come back. Not only do multiple of the characters that disappeared have confirmed sequels to their films, but it just wouldn't make sense for Marvel to kill off half the cast. So they're going to be returning in the next film. And I would say that there's probably one of two major ways that these characters are going to return back. They're either going to return in some fashion at the beginning of the film or at the end of the film. I think we can kind of establish that. I'm going to go right off the bat and say if they come back at the end of the film, then it's probably going to be like a Deus Ex Machina, kind of, they get the glove back or something like that. But I'm going to explain why I don't think that they're going to come back at the end of the film. If they were to come back at the end of the film, then a lot of these major characters that Marvel have been building up wouldn't even be present in the film. Like, we wouldn't get Black Panther, who's a massive character. We wouldn't get all these characters. So I highly doubt that it's going to be at the end of the film. I think they're going to be in the film to some capacity throughout. That's going to be the first thing that I'm going to say. So if they're going to be in the film throughout, there's probably two ways that they could accomplish this. The first thing would be to revive them at the beginning of the film, but I think that would be kind of like lackluster to basically have kind of a super big return of all the heroes at the beginning of the film, so I highly doubt they're going to do that. The other option would be through either flashbacks or some sort of alternate universe. If they were to use flashbacks, that would solve the problem where we wouldn't have the majority of the heroes in the film. But I feel like that would be less effective than having those heroes play an active part in the film. So what I think that they would do, which is much more likely, is create some sort of alternate universe, or the heroes are now in a new location. And there are multiple ways that they could go about this. The first one would just be an entirely new universe. So this is just the universe of many universes. I don't really think they're going to do that because Marvel have explicitly said that they're not going to do multiverse. I think it would be very confusing for the average viewer. I don't really think it's something that they need to go into. So the other option is that there's a pocket universe that's been created. And this is kind of like when Thanos used the gauntlet, there was another universe that was created, or the heroes were stored somewhere or something like that, to that effect. So it's only because the gauntlet was used that this new universe has been created rather than like a multiverse. If we go into this explanation, I think there's two ways again that they could do it. They could either have something like, you've got like this new universe that was created when he used the gauntlet, so Thanos actually created another universe. Or, another likely explanation is that they actually are inside the Soul Stone. So if we look at the end of the film, you have this moment where Thanos talks to Gamora, and I believe that the director actually confirmed that Gamora is in the Soul Stone, or that was like Gamora's soul talking to Thanos. So we already have one character that's confirmed to be part of the Soul Stone, so we could also assume that the rest were in. And the big issue with that is that I don't know where Loki would stand and the rest of the Asgardians. So, are they all dead now? Because they weren't killed by the Soul Stone altar, which would explain why Gamora's in the Soul Stone, and they also weren't killed by the Gauntlet, which would explain why the rest of the heroes are in there. So I think we've got these two options, and I don't really know how they would explain Loki being alive again, so I'm not saying that's explicitly against that, I'm just saying that if that were the case, I think some heroes are not going to come back. So I do think that it's likely that we're going to see the heroes kind of, that were disintegrated or killed or whatever, kind of, they're going to have their story in this one universe, and we're going to have the old Avengers and the people who were left over kind of dealing with the aftermath of what happened and maybe banding together and eventually going after Thanos. So I'm first going to go into what I think is going to happen in the secret universe, or the new universe, or the Soul Stone universe, or whatever you want to call it, because we don't actually know where it's going to take place. In that universe, I do believe that if it's a new universe, it's going to be kind of like everybody's going to be living a normal life. So I think that a lot of the characters are going to have something that they wouldn't have had otherwise. So we look at every character that was sent into this new universe or that died at the end of Infinity War. They all kind of have something that they lost. And I think a lot of those characters are going to be faced with the reality of that. So if they're in the Soul Stone, I think it's going to kind of be like a purgatory. They're going to be kind of in an imaginary, illusory world where the thing that they lost is back. So you've got Black Panther's father. I think he's going to be back. Peter Parker's going to have Ben. Doctor Strange is going to have the use of his hands. And it kind of goes on and on with these things these characters lost. I think Quicksilver is going to be back in it for a little bit. And that's kind of what Scarlet Witch lost. And I think we can kind of go back and each character is going to have their illusory world. And even Gamora's a child when she's talking to Thanos. So if we take that perspective, I think that she lost her childhood and her family when Thanos, of course, invaded her planet. So I think that's where she's going to be at. She's going to be reliving her childhood as if Thanos had never come in and messed it up. If that's the case, I think that there's going to be one character in that world, and I think it's going to be Doctor Strange. I'll go into explaining why that's the case later. But I think there's going to be one character that's kind of going to go from character to character and awaken them to the reality, and those characters are going to be faced with the choice of having to go back to the real world and the cost of that, the sacrifice that they're going to have to make. Quill was disintegrated, so he, of course, is going to, it's going to be Yondu. I think there's heavy evidence that Yondu is going to be in the film. I don't think he's going to come back, but I do think that he's going to be in this illusory world. Whether or not he's able to come back from that, it's kind of up in the air. We don't really know what characters are going to be able to be revived. If it's only the characters that were killed by the Gauntlet, or if every character can kind of come back through this method. Depends on how they go about it. But he's going to be in the film, I think, and that's going to be what Quill's going to have to sacrifice to come back. So there's going to be this character who's going to be kind of the messenger character, and he's going to rally everybody in this illusory world. They're going to face the cost of the thing. They're going to move on, and they're going to kind of band together and somehow build towards a unit to come back to the real world and fight Thanos. I've got a few kind of hypotheses for that later, but that's kind of the thing. I think it will be Strange, and I'll explain why it will be Strange. It's because he was using the Time Stone. So if we go back to that moment, I've seen a lot of comments on the internet of like, oh, Quill basically ruined everything. But if we look at that, we know for certain that that's just not the case, because we know that Doctor Strange used the Time Stone and saw these, millions of possible futures, and he knew that there was only one way for them to win. And obviously he's in the path that he saw would be able to win, because why would he choose another path? So he knew that Quill would do that, and that was necessary to the victory. So even if Quill had never done that, they would have got the Gauntlet off. Doctor Strange knows that they would have lost. So it would have come to a loss either way. I don't know how it would have, but they kind of did this interesting plot hole cover there where they have a character confirming that there's no possible other way that this could have gone, that they would have lost the fight no matter what. So it's kind of a unique little plot hole cover for Marvel there. It's kind of interesting. But Strange is the one that knows the future. So he wouldn't have let himself get disintegrated if he had no agency after that point. So I really do think that Strange has some sort of ability to control. What I think is going to happen is that he went into the future and contacted himself inside the Soul Stone with astral projection or something like that. So I think Strange is going to contact himself in the future using the Time Stone in the past, because he kind of knows what's going on. That's even confirmed at the end of the film where he says we're in the end game now. So he knows kind of what's going on with this. And he knows there's only one way that they can win, and that it involved the Soul Stone, entering the hands of Thanos and all of this stuff, and the Gauntlet going off and everything. He kind of is the prophet character. He kind of already knows what's going to happen. I only think he knows to a certain point, so I don't think he knows that they're necessarily going to win, but he knows up to the point where the Gauntlet was used and that he can communicate with himself. Sorry for the aggressive cut. I didn't have time to finish the entire video in one day, so this is me doing it on a separate day. So I'm just going to finish up the video here. I had a couple more things I wanted to touch on. So yeah, I do think that Strange is going to be the messenger character, but I think that we can look at some other things, basically just to sum up and kind of finish it off. I would like to see the heroes in the alternate universe collect the stones and forge some sort of weapon. In one comic series, there was... Actually, they use the Infinity Stones at the Forge to make an individual weapon for each hero. So I think it would be really cool if we could have the heroes in this alternate universe collect the stones again. and instead of creating an entirely new gauntlet, create basically all these different weapons that are infused. So like a Captain America shield with the stone in it, and Doctor Strange obviously would have his Eye of Agamotto again, and so on and so forth. So that would be the coolest thing for me. I'm not sure if they'll do that. I'm not really sure they're going to defeat Thanos without creating a gauntlet or getting another set of Infinity Stones or something like that. I mean, they could go with, in the Infinity War comic, they had Gamora steal the glove. Oh, no, sorry, not Gamora, Nebula. Nebula steal the glove from him and kill him using the glove and bring back the heroes and stuff like that. I don't think they're going to go with that. I think it's going to be something different. So I just wanted to kind of tell you where I got the sources for this and why I think this is going to be the case. Recently, it seems that Marvel, especially with the Infinity War film, mashed up like a few different elements from separate comics. So rather than doing like, there's a lot of kind of recurring stories in comic series. They kind of, you know, take the same premise and make another comic series about it. I think what they're going to do with the films, because obviously they don't have enough time to keep rebooting and remaking all of these different series, is to take like a collection of series that kind of have the same principal idea and mash them together. I saw that with Infinity War. They drew some stuff from multiple comic series. So I'd say in this one, kind of where I'm coming out from this is I'd say that there's three primary comics involved. There's going to be Secret War, House of M, and Heroes Reborn. Those are the three kind of things where I drew a lot of these theories from, and I think that those are kind of be what they're going to draw off of. I think it creates stronger stories for the films when they do this. They can draw the best parts of all of these things and mash them together. I really think that's what they're going to do going forward. I think they're going to kind of grab a little bit from everything. And my guess for the title of the next film is Secret War. I think that's a really awesome name for it because there's going to be the heroes in the alternate universe, and they're going to be waging a secret war while we have the heroes in the current universe or whatever, like Tony Stark and the old Avengers. They're going to be kind of fighting Thanos. So I think Secret War is a really awesome name for it. It just makes sense to me. That's my guess. It's just kind of shot in the dark. The last thing I want to say is that it only makes sense for there to be some sort of alternate universe, because we know that Strange wanted to influence the future. He's got this end game, and it just makes the most sense for him to have this end game. And I don't think that he would have done all of that time stuff and allowed himself to be disintegrated if he couldn't influence that future. It kind of makes sense for him to kind of be present still. So if they just get disintegrated and die, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, because then how would Strange know what to do after? How would he have been able to kind of, you know, predict what's going to happen and know that they still have a fighting chance? And that's where I'm going to end the video. So that's my Infinity War predictions. Yeah. Cheers.